Hello, folks. It's Uncle Dan the Vinyl Man. It's another day of the week, as it so often is. Have you ever noticed that it's very frequently a day of the week? Curious, ain't it? Anyway, it's some random day of the week, and that means that it's the irregularly scheduled time for another episode of Uncle Dan's Vintage Vinyl, the show that dares not to answer any questions, but will leave you asking, what is wrong with that old man, and where are his caretakers? Today, we'll be covering my favorite topic and yours. That's right. We'll be talking about dirty records. You know what I'm talking about. You know you like them dirty records. Uncle Dan likes them too. Pancake likes the dirty records. He does. Yeah, baby. But before we start drilling down long, hard, and deep into dirty records, let me take a moment to mention this episode's sponsor. Claire likes dirty records too. Anyway, Vivacious Vivian's Vigorous Viagra Variants. Let me ask you, gentlemen, has the lead fled from your sled? Has your slider stopped sliding? Is your cartridge missing its stylus? Has your spindle sadly dwindled? Yes, Claire. Do you look at something like this and say, Claire's wanting attention? If so, then you need to fire up the old dial-up modem, go to a private window of your browser, and type Vivacious Vivian's Vigorous Viagra Variants into your favorite search engine. Vivacious Vivian has what you need to restore the tingle to the minkle. Vigorous Viagra Variants will take you from Tiny Tim to Andre the Giant and nothing flat. And I do mean nothing flat. Let's hear from a satisfied customer. Hello, my name, Junior Cullen, is being withheld at my request. Yesterday, I couldn't spell priapism. Today, I still can't spell it. But thanks to Vivacious Vivian's Vigorous Viagra Variants and an embarrassing and uninsured trip to the emergency room, I am well versed in the treatment for priapism. Oh Lord, am I ever well versed in the treatment for it. Thank you, Mr. Cullen. You can pick up your half-pint of original Four Roses on the way out. By the way, I just did something there. It's called foreshadowing. You'll learn about it later. Anyway, back to our topic. Yes, dirty records. No, not that kind of dirty records. Get your mind out of the gutter. This here is a family channel. We will not be having any of that filth on this channel. Unless I change my mind. Not unless I can find me some real dirty records, you know. Anyway, I'm not talking about that kind of dirty record. I'm talking about this kind of dirty record. Yeah. Actually, it looks like it's a dirty record, but that record ain't dirty at all. This record is entirely clean. It is just big band stuff, you know? Anyway, I'm talking about the kind of record you'll find if you're like Uncle Dan here and you're scavenging albums from dumpsters or buying them for $1 or $2 at your local thrift store. Like this one. Oops, I put it down. Let me put it back up. I paid me $1.25 for that record. Fine album, fine album. Actually, it is a fun album. And Mr. Cy Ventnor plays, by the way, on this album, Something Wonderful by Nancy Wilson. And you all ought to go out and buy that, because this is a great album. It really is. It is something wonderful. Anyway, I'm talking about dirty records of the kind that ain't been played by anybody since Grandpa's old Zenith console stopped working back in about 1972. By the way, 1972, that was just a few years ago, you know? I know some of you folks will say that it was 50 years ago. I don't hold with you folks. If you were right, then I'd be like, no, We ain't talking about that. Anyway, you go buy an album like that Cy Ventnor album, the chances are that there ain't no sleeve in the cover. As in, for instance, and for example, this fine album by Mr. Pete Fountain, which came to me without no sleeve in the cover. And, for that matter, it ain't even the right album. This one's by Mr. Ivan Ditmars, or maybe it's Ivan, I don't know. Anyway, there weren't no sleeve, there was the wrong album, and it was dirty as heck. So, that's what Uncle Dan gets. And, you know, I paid all or nothing for that one, so I guess I shouldn't complain, but I'm like everybody else in the world. I shouldn't complain. Nobody should complain much, but everybody complains. It's our habit. It's what we do. Anyway, you buy one of these records, and you're going to find it's pretty dang dirty. Chances are the last time the record was cleaned, it was cleaned by someone throwing it on the old burlap fabric sofa and giving it a good twist or two. Then it was played for a few years after that. And it was played while people were sitting around smoking. They was frying all sorts of greasy food in the house. And they were spilling the occasional shot or glass of Four Roses over the entire turntable while they were stumbling around doing something they thought qualified as dancing. And then Grandpa's old Zenith console stopped consoling back in about 72. Since then, the record ain't been played at all. It's been sitting in the cover, with the cover turning to dust around it. Or maybe it was in a sleeve. But if it was in a sleeve, the sleeve was turned sideways so the record would slip out nice and easy out of the cover. And the dust was getting the sleeve and onto the record, and the sleeve, too, was turning to dust around the record. And I'll tell you, you can buy records from the 1970s, as I have, or I've acquired records from the 1970s, and find that they're dirty from the sleeve falling apart inside the cover, even though the record's all nicely sealed up. It still falls apart. Now, if you want to throw a record like that on a vintage turntable, let's suggest maybe a 60-year-old Garrard, and it's kind of Garrard. I can't say it right because I'm American. If I was British, I could say Garrard, right? Gerard. Model A with a Shure, let's say a Shure M7MD stylus on it, tracking M7MD cartridge, tracking it a little north of 4.5 grams. Well, then you might get the record to work all right and sound acceptable. Now, I don't know why that example of a Garrard Model A with a Shure M7MD came to mind, but it did. Anyway, you can throw that same record on your nice modern turntable with your beautiful new cartridge tracking, say, 1.5 grams or maybe 2 grams, and then you're going to have a whole bowl of Snap, Crackle, Pop, and I ain't talking about no Rice Krispies. And you got to clean that old record. And you can go searching on these old interwebs, and you'll find lots of people talking about dirty records. Not of the fun kind, but the dull kind. And you can find all sorts of advice about how to clean those records. I think that you can find almost any suggestion. Nope, I'm not actually recommending that you take a grinder to an LP. Now, unless it's an LP by whatever band it was that did The Night Chicago Died, because if that, you should take a grinder to them. Anyway, just horrible. Anyway, one popular method is to put wood glue on the record, let it dry, the wood glue, and then peel it off. People swear by that. Now you find all sorts of things on the web about that, all sorts of YouTube videos. And you can get out your box of 64 Crayola crayons. Let me say that again. You can get out your box of 64 Crayola crayons. You know the box with a little crayon sharpener on it. Box that Uncle Dan never had when he was a boy because we was poor. Wanted one of those. I wanted one. And I saw you out there. I saw you others out there had them, and I envied you. Anyway, you can take your crayon and you can color old Uncle Dan here unconvinced. You can also color old Uncle Dan here deeply lazy. Come to think of it, I think Crayola has a deeply lazy color in its palette. It's kind of a dull gray. Anyway, I'm not going to go to heroic efforts with a dang, wood glue and all, save a record that I paid basically nothing for, or maybe nothing for. So if a record's really dirty, as a lot of mine are, I'll generally just start by spraying it down with record cleaning fluid and then rubbing it with a microfiber cloth, like this one, Rub it in, rub it in, rub it in. Oh, let the tingle begin. Oh, sorry about that. I kind of wanted there. Anyway, after the record's fairly clean, I'll use my old dishwasher brush on it. And here is my dishwasher brush from 1977. Bought it new then. Had it ever since. Still got the box for it. So I'll clean up that way, but I found that no matter how well I think that I've cleaned the record's still dirty, even if it's, in otherwise apparently nice, clean record. Let's say this here, Donna Summer LP, their photo seems to be making some sort of suggestion that I can't understand. I don't understand that at all. I can't get it. But it's a valuable record, by the way. You see it signed. Look right there, signed right there. It's not signed by Donna Summer, and I suppose now it never will be signed by Donna Summer. But it is signed. It's signed by someone named Mo. I wish that Larry and Curly had also signed it, but I guess they weren't around. Anyway, you can't have everything. I'm sure that Mo signing that record makes it all worth all of the, I think, $2 I paid for it. Anyway, I can clean the heck out of one of these records. But when I go to play it, I hear lots and lots of dirt on it. And I ain't talking about no blue lyrics. I'm talking about dirt on the record. And I can see it. I can see that dirt because usually after just a few songs, the stylist will be dragging a dust bunny behind it the size of a woolly mammoth. Now, as I said before, I'm dead lazy. I don't want to have to work any more than I absolutely have to work. But you see, I started noticing something, and I got to thinking. I hate thinking too. See, thinking that resembles work. A heck of a lot too much. And I try to avoid work, so I try to avoid thinking, but much as I try, it happens sometimes. So I got to thinking about what I was seeing, and I started realizing that just playing a record will tend to clean it. Your stylist will be dragging dirt out of the grooves. So that's Uncle Dan's one weird trick to cleaning your records. Just keep playing them. I like to put a record on the old Garrard Synchro Lab 75, or maybe, a Garrard model, Garrard Type A. The Garrard Synchro Lab 75, its autoplay function on mine just keeps playing and playing and playing. I'll have to lift the stylus from time to time, clean the stylus, and by the way, when I do that, I like to use my old stylus brush. Dishwasher stylus brush. I'll get it out here. I got this in 77 too. Got a nice little mirror on the back. I can't see anything in it anymore, but it's got a nice mirror on the back. So anyway, that's Uncle Dan's tip for today. You're free to ignore it because I wouldn't take advice from me either. But that's all for this episode. But y'all keep checking back. Remember, hit like and subscribe. Also, send me your email address. Include with your email address your full name and address, your driver's license number, your social security number, your mother's maiden name, your social security number. Excuse me, I said that already. Your first pet's name and your various bank account numbers and PINs. Now, don't worry, I ain't trying to steal your identity. I know you folks. Why on earth do you think that anyone would want to steal your identity? Who wants to pretend to be you? It ain't like you ain't none of you knows. None of you ain't no movie stars or nothing like that. But send me that information anyway. I'll protect it for you. And don't forget to get you a bottle or two of Vivacious Vivian's Vigorous Viagra Variants. Remember, Vivacious Vivian's Vigorous Viagra Variants put the Vive and Revive. They'll put the shake in the snake. They put the vim in the hymn. Ask for it, Vivacious Vivian's Vigorous Viagra Variants, by name, wherever questionable medications are sold without a prescription by someone who ain't really no pharmacist. In the meantime, this is old Uncle Dan saying au revoir, and additionally, and furthermore, I've been told. Mr. Uncle Dan, you told me you wasn't going to use my name, Junior Cullum, but I heard it in there. What is this, Mr. Uncle Dan? I feel broken-hearted now.